You are tuned in to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebs and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and enthogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your hosts, Jason Beck, Rico Lamitte Nichole West, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time. Thank you for getting high at 9 with us.
Oh, yeah. Happy Monday morning, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to High at 9 News. And if you're on the East Coast, it's high noon out there. It is Monday, August 29th, and you are live with us. And we are going to pay a bill real fast, and then we're going to come back and bring you the hottest cannabis stories in today's news.
At True Classic OG, we live by one motto: stay true. We stay true to our legacy cut of True OG that's always fresh, piney, gassy, and delicious. We represent the spirit, hustle, and diversity of our great city of Angels. And we stay true to the spirit of this plant, doing everything in-house to ensure that you get the highest quality and consistency with every batch. And that's what's made us LA's favorite OG. True Classic OG. Stay true, Los Angeles.
Oh, yeah, that's right. True Classic. Thank you so much for your support, you guys. But coming up first, he's the dope dad who loves to hang out at daycare facilities, watching kids, playing with kids, and having, just being a good role model. But when he's not doing that,
It sounded so creepy.
You can find him on a TEDx stage spitting that shit. And when he's not doing any of that, you can catch him brushing up on his football skills when he's backpedaling on safe banking. Coming up next to the stage, it is none other than the dope dad, Rico Lamitte.
What's happening, everybody? Welcome back. It's a beautiful Monday morning to High at 9 News. My story today is coming from mitechnews.com by Mike Brennan. Michigan State Police Crime Lab halts cannabis blood tests after false THC positives are discovered. The lawsuits are coming, y'all. Michigan State Police Public Affairs Manager Shannon Banner quietly announced with the Friday afternoon news dump, state police cannabis crime labs have halted all cannabis blood testing, leaving it up to the State Police Forensic Science Division to make sense of a major discrepancy in THC testing results where the presence of CBD in samples may be leading to false positives. The halt came in response to a posted interview by freelance reporter Eric Van Dusen with MSP Toxicology Unit Supervisor Jeffrey French, where the latter confirmed his department's THC blood testing processes have indeed been unreliable. French went on to disclose MSP's Forensic Science Division had been using the faulty processes for more than 20 years, most likely resulting in implications on prior convictions and pending cases. When asked how MSP came to the conclusion that they were unable to differentiate between THC and CBD for after 20 years, French's response sounded more like a Scooby-Doo villain lashing out at those damn meddling kids. Perhaps they would have got away with it had he not asked. It's part of our procedure that worked perfectly fine for our analysis of THC and carboxy THC, but unbeknownst to us, there's an issue if there may also be CBD and carboxy CBD in that blood sample. And we were unaware that some substances may also be essentially looking like THC and carboxy THC. French attributed the faulty blood tests to outdated reagents and processes used by MSP labs, which he said should be updated to reflect modern advancements and discoveries in cannabinoid science, and says he hopes the discovery will lead to a much needed update. Cannabis Council Principal Thomas Levine said it's highly likely The revelation will lead to overturned and dismissed convictions because juries and judges were misled with fake scientific testimony based on defective lab tests. Van Dusen said he works for criminal defense attorneys that have had clients convicted of moving violations causing death, and speculated the faulty blood tests could open the door for people to try and reverse convictions based on this new information. French's response? Sure. Oh, there's no question. There's going to be, CBD defense. I guess we'll call it that. Well, I think it's positive for everyone popped by Michigan State blood tests over the past 2 decades. This certainly does not reverse the pain inflicted on individual lives and communities due to the willful ignorance of police and police labs who seemingly knew of the issue for quite some time. Never take a plea deal. This is Rico Lamitte, the dopest dad on the street for High at 9 News. Looking forward to hearing the rest of y'all's thoughts on this one. Big ups to Michigan.
So is this, if I understand this correctly, every drug test, every blood test that was performed in Michigan was in fact false, potentially false positives, because CBD is testing people hot for THC.
I mean, technically they're all false because you can't go back 20 years and retest somebody.
Right.
There's no way you can go back and test people for shit that's already happened. So yeah, a bunch of people about to get out.
So then if you think about like the amount, I mean, like government jobs that were lost because of that, like that's one of the things that I think of like first, right? Like people that were fired from the government. Man, this is going to be crazy. And how long have they known about this?
It doesn't say exactly when they first found out about it, but they have been knowing, but they do know that the test going back at least 20 years, they've been using these methods to test people for 20 years now.
Oh my God.
As I was mentioning to Rico earlier before the show, a study came out, I think in 2012, where labs were using gas chromatography back in the day, but newer labs are using high performance liquid chromatography, which is more accurate. And the reagent that they're using with gas chromatography can't tell the difference between CBD and THC. And I think that's probably what the problem is. So most likely.
And they didn't have enough money to update their systems, so they just kept on using the shit that don't work.
I just have so many things that I want to say about this because these giving false positives. I mean, I think that's just a worldwide epidemic that we're facing right now. Is everything you get a false positive.
Go a little further on that, Jason.
No, I'm good.
Take the bait, motherfucker.
Yeah, I saw that coming.
I think this just throws such a monkey wrench in it, and we're going to see more of this in other places, as we'll hear from another article with contamination of CBD. I mean, this is a whole big old mess, stew mess. I don't know, but I just
chaos
think
is a ladder, Liz.
There's just a whole lot of hot hemp floating around out there.
Your boy,
so it seems like maybe
Marijuana Mitch knows about that.
Well, maybe they can be questioning other, this in other states. And I agree with Nicole. Like, I've worked for the government. It's really scary to consider losing your job for something like that from something you use as medicine. So, and even with like CBD stuff, like I know people have been like, oh, I had a empty CBD bottle at work and gotten suspended because they were like, you're using this. And as we know, a Delta 8 and all this other crapola.
What about how much money it's going to cost Michigan as far as in legal fees and lawsuits, and how many government workers are going to get fired because of all that money they have to spend? And who's going to have egg on their face?
Yeah, there was a case of a father about to lose custody of his child because he was giving the child CBD, and the ex-wife had the child tested and blood came back positive, and it was that old test that turned it positive. So he had to go to court and get this expert who knows about the old test, and he was able to hang on to his son. So you got those ramifications too, child custody cases.
Yep. Like that's what I'm saying. Like a lot of people's lives have been overturned because of this. It's 20 years of just incompetence or willful ignorance, I should say, not incompetence, by Michigan State Police Department. You fucked up people's lives. You thrown people in jail because of this. People have been screwed over multiple times. So, like, I don't know. Do we have any of our lawyers on the team available today to speak on this? Like, what could this amount to a class action lawsuit, or this is just like individual lawsuits? Because the state of Michigan will go bankrupt because of this shit.
We do have one speaker from Clubhouse. I do not think he's a lawyer, however, just as the full disclaimer. I just gave them an invite to come up and speak. So Malik, I know you hear us. Go ahead and accept the speaker invite. There we go. We got Malik up from Clubhouse. What do you have to say on this, Malik? You have to unmute, buddy. Well, thanks, Malik. Thanks for trying. Thanks for coming today. Sorry, guys. Technical difficulties, apparently.
Let's go, Malik.
No. I've already moved him back to the audience. Took too long.
Thanks
That's
for
why I
tuning
did
in,
the.
Malik.
Yeah, like you're done. Bye, guys. Yes.
Let's keep smoking the news.
Let's do it.
Oh,
You got something?
You
got something, Liz?
Oh, Nicole was frozen. I was, she's back.
Yeah, Nicole was frozen. Her lights were going out. It was like there was poltergeist going on.
Yeah, I'm not sure what
happened.
happened. I was in the process of trying to get all my shit together and the internet came out against me. But I just wanted to say that story is super interesting to me. And especially what Dr. Felicia said when we start to talk about CPS issues, like thinking about how many people's lives could have been ruined with their children because of this. Like, fuck a job, fuck all these other things. Like, that's a big deal. You know what I mean? And your record, blah, 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 blah. But like losing your children over a false positive, like that's where you're going to see some people like the claws come out, because that is where things are like egregious and absolutely out of line. But yeah, so thank you so much for that headline, Rico. I definitely want to follow up with Michigan and see, you know, when they've decided to secede from the union and not be a state anymore because they have no money left, and then like Iowa buys it for like $12,
or Canada just reclaims it.
Oh shit!
Canada can
reclaim
definitely
it.
be in the money.
I mean, they could at least take the IP or the UP and stuff,
the UP,
right? Yeah. Anyways,
it'd be a communist state.
Thank you so much for that headline. Canada. I definitely want to hear more about that soon. So up next, we have Mr. Jason Beck. Jason's the longest running retailer in the history of regulated cannabis. Also our very own insider for the Republican chaos that goes on, and our Detroit's white Gucci, I believe.
Yeah, that's right. Detroit's white Gucci.
But maybe today, Canada's white Gucci if we're not careful.
Yeah, no.
Don't fuck with that CBD, bro. Don't get caught.
No, we're not fucking with that. No. Tons of boof up there. Tons of boof. All the packs getting moved in logs and shit. But nonetheless, today my story, that's right, comes right out of my background, where Florida Governor Ron DeSantis wants pot companies to pay more fees. As Florida medical marijuana companies continue to rake in cash, Governor Ron DeSantis this week said cannabis operators need to pay more for the opportunity to do business in the state. The state should charge these people more, DeSantis told reporters on Tuesday. In a quote, he says, "I mean, these are very valuable licenses," the governor said. "I would charge them an arm and a leg. I mean, everybody wants these licenses." And in all fairness, you know, he's right about that. It was unclear if DeSantis was referring to medical marijuana companies already operating in the state or businesses seeking to gain entry into Florida, which insiders say has the potential to be one of the nation's most robust cannabis markets. While DeSantis wants to extract more money from the businesses, the governor helped steer big bucks their way as one of the first legislative pushes after taking office in January of 2019. DeSantis urged lawmakers to repeal a prohibition against smokable marijuana, which the Republican-controlled legislature had outlawed after voters in 2016 passed a constitutional amendment broadly legalizing medical cannabis. The legislator quickly went along with DeSantis' request, and whole flower products are now by far the most popular items sold at more than 460 medical cannabis dispensaries throughout the state. with nearly 800,000 approved medical marijuana patients among the population, with more than 22 million residents in this great state of Florida. The DeSantis administration, however, has dragged its feet, complying with state law requiring the Department of Health to effectively double the number of players in the industry, which now has 22 licensed operators. The governor's office has blamed the delay on litigation over a 2017 law, but a Florida Supreme Court decision upholding the statute was finalized last year. The 2017 law created a framework for the medical marijuana industry and set up a schedule for new licenses to come online as the number of authorized patients increases under the law. State health officials should have issued at least another 22 licenses to keep up with the population of patients. Companies also pay $60,000 every 2 years to renew their licenses, which have routinely traded for in upwards of over $50 million. In a quote, they say, here DeSantis says, "Why wouldn't we take the opportunity to make money for the state based off of those?" he said. And I can't argue with him. Maybe you need to create a license tax or something, Mr. DeSantis. But nonetheless, I do think it would require a statutory change by the legislator, and I don't think that's something we could just do through an administrative rule, he says. Florida law requires the legislative approval of rules if regulatory costs for all of the businesses that participate in the program exceed $200,000 in 1 year, or $1 million over 5 years. The governor pointed to that part of the 2017 law that limits how much the Department of Health can charge companies for licenses and renewals. He says the law only allows the state to charge fees to cover the costs of administrative and medical marijuana programs, as well as a research program and a public health campaign. The law also gave health officials the ability to establish supplemental licensure fees to help cover the cost of the program, but the health department has never authorized such fees. Raising application and renewal fees would be unfortunate. Brady Cobb, a lawyer who is the founder and CEO of Green Century, said in a phone interview this week, and I know we're all feeling so bad for Brady that his licenses might be more expensive, but nonetheless, if it happens, it happens, said Cobb, adding the state could make more money by taxing marijuana products or allowing operators to wholesale products to each other and taxing those sales. The state charged a higher fee in a recent round of applications for a license earmarked in the 2017 law for a black farmer. Under the rules laid out by the Department of Health, applicants had to pay a $146,000 fee to compete for the black farmer licenses, more than twice the fee from the application process in 2015. And the department is expected to launch a new round of applications for licenses after the black farmer license is finalized, but the state hasn't laid out a timeline, and at least 150 hopefuls and possibly twice that number are expected to apply. Although DeSantis contends the state isn't charging enough for licenses, Florida's licensure and renewal rates already eclipse those in most other states. Well, I'll tell you what, anytime you have a governor posturing for higher fees, you can definitely anticipate that. You might want to write that into your line items in your fiscal plans coming up for the next few years. But I definitely think he's definitely going to do it. How he's going to do it is a whole nother question, and how much he's going to do it is a whole nother question too, that we shall stay and monitor. And this is Jason Beck reporting for the High at 9 News.
Jason, why is it acceptable when Republican governors raise taxes?
What's that?
Why is it acceptable?
I didn't say it was acceptable. I said you can expect it. I didn't say it was acceptable.
That's your boy, though, right?
100%.
He's
100%.
raising fucking taxes on.
Yeah, I mean, he's raising fees. I mean, the reality of it is that the Florida market, these companies are raking money in hand over fist with the availability, or as long as they're running a steady stream, they have the ability to run that. There is a lot of Florida companies that are just going bankrupt and bleeding out of pocket because they don't know how to operate, because they just have operated nurseries forever and don't understand anything about cannabis. But nonetheless, like True Leaf can afford a fee increase.
I agree with that.
MedMen, they can afford a fee increase. You know what I mean?
Like
AYR
as of right now,
all these people can afford fee increases.
But this is but right as they start to expand and try to move past their government cartel setup that they have in Florida right now, this is going to make it so none of the small producers, none of the communities of color are going to be able to participate at all.
Well, I totally
There
agree
aren't
with you
any
on
small
that.
producers in Florida.
I'm saying,
They're-
like, if they move past this cartel bullshit that they're going right now, like, nobody's ever going to be able to get in.
But I mean,
the big
just
guys.
the way that it's set up in general, it's not designed. The state of Florida is not designed for anybody
I know. I'm
to
saying that.
even make their way in.
That's what I said. Like, that's the way it is right now, and they're trying to push for the smaller people. There's a huge movement trying to push for small operators. Like, there's no way anybody is going to be able to get in. These mega producers that are running the state right now, like, yeah, they can afford it, like Jason says. But how is anybody else ever going to squeak in?
Well,
if
I mean, I'm
most
surprised.
Floridians that are smaller businesses know better. Like I know so many people that are from Florida that are in the cannabis industry that are like, no, like there's no point. That are deep in Florida. Like I have friends that are, have a lot of money in Florida businesses, and they're just like, no, it's already decided. And at that point, it's already decided. Florida is not really aiming to let anyone in.
And I thought Florida was supposed to be tax friendly for businesses.
The thing is, who do they pass this cost on to? I mean, it's not going to be just absorbed by these companies, I don't think. And so it's unfortunately going to be passed on to the consumer, who's already being pulled and pushed at every angle. So,
I don't think it'll actually get pushed on the consumer because they already have their prices set. They're big enough to, if they're paying $60,000 every 2 years, they can pay they could pay $60,000 every year and it not really affect their bottom line.
So do we know why the black farmer's license was double the previous licenses?
Now, Dr. Felicia, I'm glad you pointed that out because that was going to be the topic that I thought that Rico was going to touch on why they're only giving out one of these licenses and they're charging twice as much for that when it's deemed to be, in essence, a social equity type of licensure scheme, which is just mind-boggling to me, and I think Florida should definitely rectify that in some state of way. But as far as these other licenses, too, that they're talking about giving out, the state of Florida has no fiscal plan to be able to even accept applications to give these out in the first place. So them giving them out anytime soon is just not even reality.
They keep on pushing it back. Dr. Felicia, they keep on pushing it back. And they're never going to take care of the black people, the black farmers, even though it's owed to us. It's in writing. But you know what? It doesn't matter because they don't have enough money and they're not going to be paying enough money to the state. And this amounts to straight up extortion by your boy, DeSantis.
This is not extortion by DeSantis, bro. Stop being such a hater.
Straight
He's the
up.
best governor in the country right now.
It's so
What?
funny. You're ridiculous.
I do love to visit the Panhandle, but I must say that if you take away Florida's beaches, they are a lot like Georgia.
Florida is not that fun without the beach.
That's an interesting point, Dr.
They're a lot like Georgia in terms of people of color. They're a lot like Georgia.
Dun dun dun.
They hate that the black and brown communities give it so much flavor. So you got to. I
was just out in Florida recently to speak at a conference. Jason was actually out there with me, and we were in Tampa. And I was strangely surprised with how much Tampa has grown over the past years, the past like 5 years. And from what I understand, Tampa is on the come up. But
Tampa got some strip clubs, yo.
Yeah, Tampa's on the come up.
turns up.
But like when you leave those little bubbles of like Tampa or Miami or like Cocoa Beach and you go in, you're in Georgia. Dr. Felicia's right. It's like when you leave Austin, you know what I mean? You realize you're in Texas. Like the moment you leave Austin, you're like, I'm in Texas. This is where I am.
Georgia,
exactly.
I have
Georgia
no
was
problem
a
just
swamp, it
staying in
would be
Palm
Florida.
Beach. I have no
Say again,
problem
Jason.
just staying in Palm Beach. Totally fine right here. Palm Beach.
Oh, look at
Florida.
that little dog Jason has.
Yes,
Whose
this
dog
is
that?
Cupcake. This is
Oh, hi,
Cupcake.
Cupcake.
Cupcake is a celebrity
Jason-
dog.
Jason, if you don't have a dog every day on the show, we need to get you like a taxidermed dog to put.
No,
That's fucking gross.
No.
All right. I
No,
think
we
we're in
like
time
him-
on
we
that
like him
story.
We like him live.
No, like the dog with the stogie, the dog who's the insult dog. He's hilarious.
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
the one
Yeah, what is his
the
name?
one that got reamed
All right,
by
guys,
the
we're
Capitol
definitely
Police.
time on this story. No one cares about the dog with the stogie. Let's
Keep it
move on. We're going to do
Up
news
next.
today. We're
Up
going to do
next.
news today.
Let's go. Up next, this business, agriculture, and efficiency specialist has over 12 years industry experience and enough trivial knowledge to have once been called in jail. Once called jail Google by fellow inmates while locked up in Colorado. Coming to the stage next, it's the bullshit bussin' general data bitch herself, Nichole West.
Good
you
morning,
got for us?
everybody. Thank you so much. That was a badass intro. Thank you, Rico. My headline today is coming out of Forbes, and I don't often cover headlines out of Forbes because they definitely do a lot of advertorial stuff, but this specific one is not an advertorial, and I think it is very interesting. And I'm not surprised. We've been talking about CBD, and we've been talking about, very interesting conversation we we're having earlier in regards to Michigan's testing of CBD, testing hot for THC, but that's going to make this next story even fucking better. Nearly 60% of the CBD products on the market that were tested were mislabeled containing heavy metals or no cannabinoids at all. So the findings of a new study show that nearly 60% of CBD products marketed in the United States don't either match the percentage of CBD advertised on the product's labeling, or furthermore, researchers have detected that the presence of lead, mercury, arsenic, cadmium, and other heavy metals containing concentrations in edible CBD products. And this isn't something that I'm surprised by at all. One thing, hemp is like the ultimate remediator. And so when they're extracting industrial grade hemp, when they're taking CBD, CBD or hemp as a plant is so good at cleaning the soil, but what it does is it actually extracts the crap that's in the ground and pulls it up into the plant, thus making the plants tainted. So published in the Science of Total Environmental Journal this month, the study aimed to assess the degree of contamination in CBD products and their labeled accuracy, better estimate potential health benefits and risks associated with consumption. Therefore, researchers have analyzed 516 different CBD-based edible topical products purchased throughout the U.S. market. The presence of CBD in each product and what is claimed on the label varies significantly. Only 42% of the products contain approximately the amount of CBD percentage claimed on the manufacturer's label, while 58% of the products were mislabeled on potency. Among all products, 40% contain less than 90% of the CBD indicated on the product label. Currently in the state of California and a majority of other states, we have an acceptable variance. And it's plus or minus 10%. And so that's the reason why they're making the mention of it being less than 90% of the actual amount, because that would put it outside of the standard deviation for testing of plus minus 10%. Similar rules apply to like alcohol, and I'm not sure about pharmaceuticals, but the batch testing for alcohol does have a similar process. So the inaccuracies of CBD labels were so vast, with the measured amounts both significantly lower and higher than the labeled claims. Specifically, the measured values of CBD were more likely to be less than the CBD labeled claim on the label. Before showing the results of the analysis of heavy metals conducted on the sample of CBD products, it's essential to understand the risks related to heavy metals taken in consideration in this study and how they might harm the human body. So by testing 121 CBD-based edible products, researchers have found traces of cadmium, mercury, arsenic, lead, and other phthalates. Chronic exposure to cadmium is linked to kidney and lung disease. Mercury, which is exposed to lung, has largely been associated with in seafood consumption, can be absorbed through the lungs and skin and result in hypersensitivity reactions, and ingesting it can potentially be fatal to the kidneys, gastrointestinal tract, and other organ systems. Arsenic exposure is not limited to toxic waste sites and massive poisoning events. Chronic exposure continues to be significant to public health problems worldwide, affecting hundreds of millions of people. So with that said, the result analysis of the CBD edible shows 42% of the products contained lead, 37 contained mercury, 38 contained arsenic, and 8% contained cadmium. However, not all CBD edible products contain high concentrations of these toxic contaminants, and the study finds showing low level of heavy metal in edible and consumption CBD products pervasive across the board. Lead contamination was detected low concentrations, or lead contaminants detected low concentrations, while cadmium was less frequently seen in edible CBD samples, and none exceeded the regulatory thresholds. Only 4 edible CBD products exceeded the California Proposition 65 threshold for daily lead consumption, and 2 servings, 0.5 UG per 2 servings, which is 1/1,000,000th of a gram and 1/10,000th of a gram, or 1,000th of a gram. It's worth noting that it's not usual to find any heavy metal contamination in cannabis plants, as they can absorb. It is not unusual to find contamination in the plants because they can absorb and retain contaminants from the soil where it's grown because of their ability to absorb and clean and remediate. So with that said, definitely something worth looking into. I know this whole I've got hemp tested, we've got COAs. Well, there unfortunately is no tracking, or fortunately, but when they're not regulating this kind of stuff, all kinds of mishap and all kinds of shit will happen. And this is just proof that people are not taking this as seriously as they should be. Now, I know that there's a lot of homogeneity testing available in different types of industries, and I'd like to get to the place where we can do that in cannabis. But unfortunately, as somebody who's seen a lot of businesses on the back end, we're just not there yet. So this is just proof to me that the hemp industry is definitely resting on the fact that they think that they're going to be able to get away with selling snake oil and not care about the people, and or just trying to make a quick buck. So pay attention to your CBD, know where it's coming from. You'd probably have a lot better chance buying it from a regulated market dispensary, because you're going to ensure that it has been tested for the most part. There's definitely still bad actors across that board too. But unfortunately, for the people in states that don't have access, they're very limited, and this is going to be what they're going to have to be, subjected to. So I hope that some of these CBD companies get their shit together, and I'm just curious what Dr. Felicia and everyone else on the stage has to say about this.
I personally try to do organic CBD. You know, hemp is a federally legal crop. Therefore, it can be USDA organic, and you're supposed to prepare the soil for 2 years before you even put anything in it, so it can't draw up toxins. So I am a big believer in organic CBD, and there are several companies on the market that have it. So it's not like it's impossible to find. It can be shipped across all 50 states. So that's my take on it.
I think this is
Go ahead, Nicole Buffon.
Another concern with the legal market when it comes to CBD products, I'm not going to name any names, but I know for a fact that some of these legal CBD distributors that can be found in dispensaries are only putting like 5% of actual cannabidiol inside of their CBD products. Like 3 to 5% of the bottle that you buy or the tincture you buy may have actual CBD in it. And so that's another thing. I agree with Dr. Felicia. I only buy from trusted sources when it comes to CBD. That's the only recommendations that I make. And you got to be careful with also the regulated market. Know the manufacturer, know where it's coming from, because a lot of these big players, these MSOs, are putting product out here that it's not even worthy of taking because it doesn't have enough of the medicine in it.
Call them out.
I mean, none of this surprises me. I've known this about hemp for as long as I've known about hemp, and I'll tell you what. All of these hemp companies with all the heavy metals involved, I think they would do much better if they just started a cell phone company as opposed to trying to sell hemp with all these heavy metals.
But here's the thing: is we have to have this hemp to clean the soil. And so a lot of these heavy metals, we have to figure out ways to utilize and take that plant material and use it for something that's not going to be a contaminant, right? Because the fact that the heavy metals are there in a lot, especially in hemp, in a lot of the situations, it's because the fucking dirt's dirty. The ground's dirty.
Right.
Well, there's
the
the PFOAs in there, and then
dirty dirt.
Use it for hempcrete, but don't
exactly.
Use it for
Yeah.
medicine. Don't
No,
use
exactly.
acid and put it- yeah.
And we just don't have enough people everyone's trying to get CBD or get Delta 8 out of a fucking cannabis plant. There's not enough people spending time on utilizing it as a fiber for, paper, for wood, for all that shit. Like, there are people doing it, but there's not enough people doing it because everyone's just trying to get high.
Because also it's a wellness thing, I think, like you're saying, Nicole, like everybody's trying to get higher. They're also pitching it as this health thing. And then all these people are going for it and just buying it blindly because they think that's what's good. As we know, so much of our soil is contaminated. This is a bioaccumulator plant. It's pulling up these PFOAs that we can't even get rid of in our soil and stuff. So we really do need to do like a whole cleanse clean everything. And it's scary because people are taking this stuff with these things and then saying that this is their experience with cannabis or CBD also.
A lot of that soil, you say, can be remediated by hemp, right?
Yeah.
But what happens if the hemp you put in to remediate it has heavy metals in it?
It'll still absorb more, but like you wouldn't have a ton of a heavy metal in like a clone. It would have some, like especially if like you took a clone of a of a plant, but it would have trace amounts, but it's as it's growing, it's absorbing and pulling more and more. It would, even if it did have heavy metals, it would still keep sucking more heavy metals down. That's how rad hemp is. It's like I'm sick, but I'll keep taking it.
It wants
And
more metal.
unfortunately, because Epidiolex came to the market, the FDA is really going to be dragging their feet about trying to regulate it, and they may never regulate it. They may say the only CBD that's going to be allowed is going to be a pharmaceutical grade, and so
Yeah.
they may never regulate it. So it's going to
Because
be on the consumer to do
they feed the
USDA
machine.
organic.
They feed the
But
machine.
then it's also like we're getting this CBD, like so much CBD was imported prior to the hemp bill. It's like, what is this? It comes in as a white substance, a white powder. Like, what's the incentive to cut that? And all of these countries that are producing it now, I mean, they haven't had as strict environmental standards, other things like that. So that's the thing. It's like, and cannabis/hemp has the unique ability of going from roots to shoots, so it can pull it up and concentrate it in the buds. So.
Roots to shoots.
I like that.
Yeah.
Roots to
I like
shoots.
that. Yeah.
All right.
I think, Nicole, I think we got to do a relight.
I do think so, definitely. Roots to shoots, I like that though too. There's a lot of fun
Shoot the
farming
roots.
rhymes. Roots to shoots, bigger roots, bigger fruits. Anyways, thank you all. We're gonna go ahead and get our disclaimer and our relight going. So the thoughts and opinions and shade thrown on High at 9 News are those of the individual speakers, not those of any other speaker or its followers. The statements made do not constitute legal or accounting advice, and our speakers make no representation regarding illegal substance of any country, area, or territory or authorities. The views expressed in this room do not establish fiduciary relationships. Our sponsorships do not apply or constitute endorsement by the expressions of anyone's whatsoever, the speaker, anyone on stage. If you're easily offended, this show's probably not for you. Also, fuck off.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Flying into LAX and you want to taste some of the best weed in the world? Then stop by LAXCC, the closest dispensary to LAX, located at 8332 Lincoln Boulevard and open from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. 7 days a week. Always make LAXCC your first stop when you touch down in LA and score like a winner. And don't forget to tell them I sent you and mention you like to get high at 9 for 10% off your full order.
Hell yeah.
Oh, yeah. Rico, it's you. You got to introduce, bro.
I just introduced.
Yeah, you had two because Jason and I had the commercial and the
Yeah, it's on you, Rico.
ad. It's
Okay.
on the agenda. But I mean, if someone else could pull it up, it's your name's next to it. It's all good. If you read the run a show this morning, sir.
Yeah, come on.
Oh. I gotta drop my daughter off
Nicole-
before I
No,
come
it's
in.
it.
Nicole
Come
Buffon.
on.
No, run a
Nicole
show. Yeah,
Buffon.
okay.
Come on.
I see. I got you.
Do you? Nicole Buffon, she's the patient and plant medicine advocate, founder of Purple Magic, also Roz McCarthy's right hand on the left coast for M4MM and the Encyclopedia. Wednesday mornings on Power 88 Las Vegas. Nicole Buffon, what do you have for us today?
Oh, thank you so much, Nicole, for that intro. My news story today comes from Marijuana Moment, our good friend Kyle Baker. California bills to authorize interstate marijuana commerce and seal records head to governor, with more reforms pending. This is a long article going through a bunch of different bills, but I'll try to summarize it the best I can in what I think relates to us and what we want to know about. California bills to set up the framework for interstate marijuana commerce, streamline record sealing for cannabis convictions, safeguard firms that provide insurance to businesses in the legal industry, and more are heading to the governor's desk. There's been a blizzard of cannabis legislation advancing through the legislature in recent weeks as the end of the session approaches, and several other bills are still pending, such as one that would prohibit localities from banning medical marijuana deliveries, and another providing employment protections for people who use cannabis off the job. The former bill would set the stage to allow for interstate marijuana commerce from California to and from other legal states, contingent on an official assurance that the activity would not put the state at risk of federal enforcement action. It advanced through the Assembly Appropriations Committee on the same week that New Jersey President filed a bill to allow interstate cannabis commerce under the similar circumstances. Then it moved through the full chamber before the final version was concurred by the Senate on Thursday in a 28-9 vote. Meanwhile, there's another legislation that's meant to enhance justice reform provisions of the state's marijuana law by mandating the courts to process record sealing and other forms of relief for people with eligible cannabis convictions on their records in a specific time frame. Courts would have until March 1st, 2023 to seal records for qualifying cases that weren't challenged by July 1st, 2020. The bill was amended in the Senate to change reporting requirements on record sealing from monthly to quarterly, and then it passed the full chamber earlier this month before heading back to the Assembly for concurrence. It passed that chamber unanimously on Thursday, sending it to the governor. Another measure heading to Newsom's desk is AB 2568. This legislation would provide, it is not a crime solely for individuals and firms to provide insurance and related services to persons licensed to engage in commercial cannabis activity, according to a summary. It passed unanimously in both chambers of the legislature, and it is already on the governor's desk. The legislation would make it so doctors could not discriminate against patients by denying medication or treatment based on a positive THC test if the person is a registered medical cannabis patient in the state. It further stipulates that medical professionals couldn't be penalized for administering treatment to a patient who uses medical marijuana in compliance with state law. That's the problem right now in the state of Georgia. A lot of doctors have been reaching out to me trying to understand how they're going to get their patients the medicine that the state says they're allowed to have. Several other bills could be sent to governor's desk by Wednesday, including AB 2188. This bill would make it unlawful for an employer to discriminate against a person in hiring, termination, or any term or condition of employment, or otherwise penalize a person solely because of off-duty marijuana use. It would eliminate employment-based THC testing, with exceptions for certain positions such as federal employees or those working in construction. One bill that did not pass was to require additional warning labeling. The California Cannabis Industry Association and other marijuana trade groups opposed it, arguing that the state already has robust labeling requirements and higher prices in the will push consumers to the illicit market, where products are either not labeled, misleadingly labeled, or laced with other toxins, unregulated additives. Kevin Sabet, not a friend, president of the prohibitionist group Smart Approaches to Marijuana, attributed the decision to withdraw the legislation to pressure from the industry, which he argued cannot be underestimated in their relentless pursuit to damage public health. Newsom has a long record of supporting marijuana reform and backing the state's market, so he's generally expected to sign these measures. But despite his record, he recently voted a key piece of drug policy reform legislation. San Francisco officials have since signaled that they're prepared to defy the governor and launch an overdose prevention program regardless of the veto. In another disappointment reform, a separate Wiener bill that would have legalized possession of limited amounts of certain psychedelics was recently pulled from the sponsor after its main provisions were gutted. You can read about the other bills in further detail in the Marijuana Moment article. I personally would love to see interstate commerce. I wonder if that will cover individuals flying from state to state. This is Nicole Buffon reporting for High at 9 News Hour.
So I love the enthusiasm that California wants to make sure that we have interstate commerce. But the reality of it is that all of these bills are just to form an interstate compact. And the sad truth about it is that states can't form interstate compacts without a vote from Congress, which means if they're going to vote to approve an interstate compact, they might as well just vote to deschedule cannabis, which will give us interstate trade in the first place.
Agreed.
So you think this whole conversation is a waste of time?
Yeah,
no, I don't think it's a waste of time. It's good to keep the narrative going and keep the keep the mission in mind, and that's the ultimate goal, is to have interstate trade when it comes to cannabis. So I think the more beating of the drum is good, even though I don't think anyone should expect to see anything, even if it was to pass and get signed.
I want to ask a question about the labeling. What is insufficient about the labeling that they wanted to add additional stuff to the label?
They wanted to add onto the labeling that this can cause psychosis, like it's mental, the effects that it could possibly have on your mental status. And that's what, in addition to what is already on the labeling, they wanted to add that. So that bill was denied.
What a bunch of prohibitionist nonsense to add that to the packaging.
I know. And because, and of course, adding that labeling to the packaging, which would mean that it would increase the cost of the final product. And like it said, this overregulated industry already has taxes on it that people are they're just pushing people into the unregulated market.
I'm concerned that I'm concerned that the push, like with stuff like that they're going to ultimately try to put like potency caps and things like that. I know it's probably a little far out, but like looking at that, it's like they're putting that psychosis thing on there again and again. It's like, I don't know. I feel like that there's going to be ultimately potency caps with that.
Well, public service announcements would really help with some education regarding that.
People that are already prone to psychosis is just what it is. It's just people that are already prone to psychosis is what, when you smoke cannabis, you'll be more prone to get psychosis. That's all it is. It's not making you crazy. The people are already crazy.
Well, no, there are two situations. There are people who are genetically inclined to have psychosis, and they will present earlier with high doses of THC. However, also high doses of THC can make a normal person experience psychotic symptoms that are short-lived, but it can happen.
I don't know.
I've seen it several
times. Like some reefer madness.
Joe discuss this. Do you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry to interrupt, but outside of an occasional episode where somebody has a psychotic break, the majority of the time, a public service announcement could say, if you are seeing things or hearing voices, or if someone in your family sees things or hears voices, cannabis may not be for you.
I would be fine with that, Dr. Mary.
What if they want to see the voices?
If they want to see the voices, then maybe they should drop some acid or take some mushrooms.
What if the voices are real?
Yeah, that's right, Jason.
I mean, what if the voices are real? I'm just saying.
You mean like they just have people in the room and they're actually really people there, but they're in such a state of psychosis that they think they're just voices in the
Yes.
Well, that's the problem.
They can be ghosts.
Right? Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Felicia. Goodness. I'm just saying that there's possible.
Are you guys telling me that there's ghosts?
They could be the ancestors.
A lot of people that already have these diagnoses or have not been diagnosed yet, and then cannabis could be that trigger that actually makes the disease surface. But I think that putting additional labeling based on what's already on the warning label is just excessive.
I feel triggered from all this
dangerous
talk.
It's dangerous.
The newest studies do show that same trigger can happen in that predisposed person with too much alcohol or with cocaine, or there's a million different things that will trigger that. I mean, cannabis.
How about pharmaceutical drugs, Dr. Mary Clifton? How about pharmaceutical drugs?
Yes.
Could those do it too?
Yeah, can we get a warning label like this on Oxy?
On everything.
Right.
Sugar.
Too much coffee. I mean, coffee.
What about what about what they give these veterans all the time? That they say
icy hot.
Yeah.
What was it? Chloroquine.
Chloroquine. Yeah.
Hydrochloroquine.
I love hydroxychloroquine.
No, not hydro.
No, it's something
hydro,
that they give
hydroxychloroquine.
Yeah, something like that.
Hydroxychloroquine is not what Nicole is thinking of.
I think we're at time on this.
I think we're at time too, Nicole. I'm with you on that. So, coming up next to the stage, one visit to this doctor office is sure to get you access to all kinds of blue pills. All shapes, sizes, and colors are always included and welcome in this safe space. She's the Plants for Life CEO and a dual board certified physician, always promoting cannabis as medicine. And if you play your cards right, She'll mix some yellow ones with your blue ones for a much greener experience. Coming up next to the stage is none other than the Dr. Felicia Dawson.
Thank you so much, Jason. Happy Monday, everyone. My headline comes from Benzinga. Breaking down the best cannabis operators by environmental impact. Meet them at Benzinga Cannabis Capital Conference by Joanna Scopel. The September 13 to 14 Benzinga Cannabis Capital Conference in Chicago will celebrate, among so many other things, the shared commitment to caring for Mother Earth. Conference attendees will meet the cannabis operators whose companies are as successful as they are sustainable. They have identified the top 7 environmentally friendly operators: Canna Change App, Geomat, Dama Distributing, Wild CBD, Possible, N2 Packaging Systems LLC, and Glass House Brands. I'm going to focus on the four of them. First up is Canna Change app, which allows consumers to return their recyclable cannabis packaging to dispensaries in exchange for dispensary credit. O'Neill Rudolph, CEO of Canna Change, was a guest speaker at the Miami Benzinga Cannabis Capital Conference in April of this year. And at that time, he talked about Canna Change's mission and the impact a social equity startup can have on the industry through its commitment to the environment. Next, there's Dama Distributing, based in Denver. They provide sustainable, compliant, home compostable, and compliant packaging for a variety of industries. Dama also works with hemp plastics. In the last 3 years, Dama Distributing has made a massive impact on the world today by preventing over 2 million pounds of toxic petroleum plastic from entering our environment. Wild CBD in Oregon is a company that makes high quality hemp derived products and CBD edibles, and they use certified labs to assess their products for safety and potency. In addition, Wild CBD officially became a climate neutral certified brand, and there are only a little over 200 manufacturers with that certification, and they will do for manufacturing what Fair Trade has done for coffee and what LEED has done for buildings. N2 Packaging Systems LLC, a sustainable packaging company that uses innovative engineering and proprietary packaging technologies to protect and preserve CBD and cannabis products. Recently, the company announced a 44.5% year-over-year growth in the first half of 2022. N2's growth was driven by 16 new business accounts across the US and around the world, including Israel and Jamaica. I am delighted to see companies get some love and attention for doing good regarding our environment while doing well. Cannabis leaders who only see profits as their number one and only goal are short-sighted because millennials comprise the biggest chunk of their consumer base and they care about the environment. People don't realize how much the polluting of our world and the climate change impacts not only your wallet with supply chain disruptions and destruction of crops and infrastructure by wind, water, and fire disasters, it also contributes significantly to chronic inflammation in our bodies due to poor air quality, polluted drinking water, and a food supply filled with toxins and genetically modified organisms. Chronic inflammation is the number one driver of the diseases that are killing us, like heart disease, diabetes, and hypertension. Congratulations to these brands for walking the talk. This is Dr. Felicia Dawson reporting for High at 9 News and Opinion Show. Do any of my fellow correspondents or audience members have experience in working with or purchasing from these companies?
I mean, I sell a lot of wild gummies, and congratulations to them on this achievement.
Everyone sells a lot of wild gummies.
Yeah, wild.
Bro, they're
They
crushing
sell.
it. They're like
good.
They're like
They
the second
wildin'.
or third biggest company in the state right now.
If I'm gonna buy a gummy, I would buy a wild gummy. If I
Wild-
Their ground game is nice. They really support a lot of local events too.
So when
consistent,
I was kind of blown away that Glass House was on here. I will make that mention. There was another.
Why were you surprised?
Well, I mean, just in
Their
general,
quality.
it makes me wonder what the actual qualifications
Right.
and like who did the
It
vetting
makes
of
you
this.
question the
It
whole
makes me
system at hand.
System.
It does. And
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
like
Tear
I'm
it
like,
down.
oh, I know they're super fucking shitty environmental people. Like I don't have any of that. I'm not saying that, but like just from everything else and all the other like interactions of the things that they have or have not cared about outside of their giving weed to the veterans. And I think they're only doing that because they have a gang of weed. I don't know. I don't know what to
They've
say.
given me over a kilo
Yeah,
of
I
weed
know.
to give
I
away
know.
at absolutely zero cost.
$0. Yeah.
Are they not growing sustainably?
They're growing a lot of weed, Dr.
I mean, they're
Felicia.
growing a lot of weed.
Shit ton of
It
weed.
seems like it must be sustainable because they're growing so much of it. They have extra.
Yeah.
Well, now they're growing seed junkies stuff.
See, to me, Dr. Felicia, growing sustainably means if you can pay your workers and keep selling your weed and keep the roof on the house.
Okay.
Sustainable economy. That's all that
Correct.
matters, right?
Yes.
That's the point, though. This is what's sustainable. I mean, even we looked at these certifications like Clean Green Certified, and you can look back and see that there's, it's sad because you
How
want
bullshit
to.
is Clean Green Certified though? Is it really legit, or is it just some bureaucracy bullshit?
I'm gonna go on. I'm gonna say on the good side of Clean Green. I think what they do is a good service. They are the only people that are. There's 2 or 3 other people that are doing the same thing as well, but they've been doing it the longest that I know of a company doing that. And so, I think it's a good thing that they do for the industry overall. Whether or not people want to take advantages of the services, but I know that their process is serious. Like they come over to your grow, they test everything that you're growing with, they watch all your practices and everything else like that before you can ever get that type of certification from them.
But how would Raw Garden get it then? Because Raw Garden got slapped with all these fines for polluting for diesel fuel, and
maybe.
Right. Who's paying for these certifications?
Maybe they didn't have those. Maybe they didn't have those diesels when they were certified, and then those came in afterwards. I don't know. I'm not the. You know what I'm saying? I don't.
I
work for Clean
agree.
Green.
It's good to you want to have something that we can trust and a precedent. It's just hard because we know like the cheddar is the bait. There's a lot of rats.
I definitely know that they're the facilities themselves were probably, and if you look at a lot of these people, they're brand new builds too, and so it's like when you build it right, it's probably a lot easier to go through the process of getting certified because you're like working with your contractors and those people to be like, this is exactly what it needs to be to get this stamp, and like a lot of times you get the certifications or this clearance like before you've been in business for a couple years and like doing fucking crappy shit. And so I don't know. I question this kind of shit in general because I see a lot of grows and I don't know.
I'm with you. Right. Question everything.
That was a really good one too. Closing us out today.
Wait, we have Liz.
That's what I'm giving Liz.
Okay. Yeah.
She's not closing us out though. We still have
Matthew. Yeah, she is. No, Matthew's not going to go.
Oh, okay. All right.
I'm landing this plane.
My bad.
Closing us out today. This data set loving Santa Barbara based East Coast transplant is an educator, brand strategist, healthcare consultant, and founder of the Cannabis Business Council of Santa Barbara County. Up next, y'all know who it is, Liz Rogan.
Thank you, Rico, and greetings, everyone. Happy Monday, and thanks for joining us here at the High at 9 News Hour. My story comes from Marijuana Moment by Kyle Yeager. The headline reads, U.S. border officials want to buy cannabis analyzers to detect cannabinoid profiles and distinguish marijuana from hemp. So the U.S. Customs and Border Patrol, CBP, is looking to buy portable cannabis analyzers to quickly identify cannabinoid profiles and help distinguish between cannabis and hemp. In a recent notice that they put out, they say they're soliciting statements of work from companies that manufacture cannabis analyzers that meet the agency's functional standards. CPD said that it requires capability to determine if the suspect plant material or manufactured products contain cannabinoid class chemicals and in what quantity. Law enforcement has struggled to distinguish between illicit cannabis and legal hemp since the since hemp was removed from the Farm Bill in 2018. Federal status removed from federal control under the Farm Bill in 2018. And the notice specifies that the device must be able to determine whether a given cannabis product contains more than 0.3% THC by dry weight, which would mean it fits the federal definition of cannabis. They also laid out additional details about what they're looking for in a cannabis analyzer, which must be, quote, human portable, weighing no more than 15 pounds. At a minimum, it must be able to detect 9 cannabinoids listed on the table in this notice, which include Delta 9, Delta 8, Delta 10, THC, CBD, CBDA, CBN, and CBG. It must be able to identify moisture and estimated dry weight of the cannabis material. A full analysis cycle must not take more than 12 minutes, and the agency said the screen must be in color and visible in different lighting settings. Also, following the analysis, the device must show each cannabinoid it detects, the dry weight of the cannabinoids, and the moisture content. Quote, the analyzer shall have the ability to store analysis data and results on board the stream. The notice says the analyzer shall be capable of displaying the results of the analyses of the stored data, and it shall have the ability to transfer the data files and results to a USB drive. The device needs to have a minimum of an 8-hour charge and come with a battery charger and impermeable carrying case. The notice also requires the company itself to provide training on how to operate the analyzer. The training, quote, shall be at an undergraduate and graduate level of physical sciences, like chemistry, and must include a review of the operator's manual and procedures as listed therein. However, the agency stresses that while the company is required to provide this training data and everything else, but they don't want you to provide the cannabinoids. They've got their own. Don't worry about that. They'll bring their own weed. So the deadline to submit this statement of work for your cannabis analyzer capabilities is September 2nd. So that's Friday. And based on a report from the Government Accountability Office that was released in June, Border Patrol agents have mostly seized small amounts of drugs from American citizens at checkpoints, not large quantities as trafficked by transnational cartels, as some might assume. The GAO found that most drug seizure events involved only U.S. citizens, 91%, which 75% involved the seizure of marijuana and no other drugs, according to the report. The analysis also showed a significant decline in cannabis seizures at checkpoints overall since 2016, as more states have moved to provide consumers with a way to legally purchase cannabis from regulated businesses, and federal prosecutors have increasingly urged discretion in cannabis cases. When it comes to cannabis analytics, the Justice Department in 2020 awarded $350,000 to the National Institute of Standards and Technology to support efforts to provide forensic laboratories with the necessary analytical tools to distinguish between cannabis and hemp. In 2020, the DEA said that they were seeking a device to provide specificity to distinguish between hemp and marijuana. There's a lot of complications from this, though. They do at the article, it mentions Texas, where cannabis possession arrests fell almost 30% from 2018 to 2019 following the state level legalization of CBD, but prosecutors in the state dismissed hundreds of low-level cannabis cases since hemp was legalized. And they also announced in 2020 that the labs wouldn't be performing testing in misdemeanor cases. So the Department of Public Safety said it wouldn't have the capacity to accept any of those. So this may have some big consequences, legally. But I think this is a little bit funny, and who's going to bust this product out right away with all these stipulations? But maybe somebody's been producing it all along. I'm Liz Rogan, getting high at 9 with you guys, and love to hear what you have to say.
I'm glad you finished the sentence with maybe somebody's been producing it all along, because it sounds so incredibly specific that it sounds like a patent application almost, to the point of where that already exists. There's probably already a patent on it, and there's probably some follow the money, right, Rico?
Right. This totally destroys Jason's go-to when he says, just tell him it's hemp.
It's hemp. But when I went and I asked the police officer the other day in Florida, he said, there is no difference. I mean, that's obviously there is no difference. And the reality that they've done this to us,
scientific level, but they want to keep you fucking suppressed, keep you in the motherfucking dark so you don't learn about this shit. We got education up on this motherfucking show.
Can we change Marijuana Mitch's name to something else if they get this machine out? Because I don't think he deserves it anymore.
I mean,
Spice Mitch.
I mean,
Yeah.
I don't even think they're ever going to get this machine out. I think this is just this is a puff piece for the
Spice
machine.
and
For the
'cause
machine
they're-
itself.
For the
they're trying to
machine, they're
sell and
just
get an
trying to
investor.
they're trying to raise money, trying to fucking stroke their fucking
Ooh.
shit. Yeah, this is fucking all bullshit hype.
Does it matter where
I've seen some
the
of
money
those
came
tests.
from?
I've
What's
seen
that,
There-
Rico?
It doesn't
There's a
matter where the
couple-
money came from when you got fucking slave owners on the front of it.
Jesus Christ, Rico.
There's a couple machines, like back in the day in Colorado when they first started doing testing, there was a company that would go around and he had like a van and you'd throw it into his little GC in his van, and like it's not like it's outside of the realm of possibility for it to exist, but like honestly the way that it sounds, how specific it was, it sounds like it already exists. And this is the kind of thing that a place like Florida, in my mind, would immediately implement. Like fucking immediately. And if this machine did come to fruition, it would allow for states to more actively legalize hemp, and
Florida,
legalize CBD.
I don't think Florida would be the first state, because then they would later in like 20 years they get one of these lawsuits like Rico's story in Michigan today, and then all of a sudden they'd be
All right,
flat
so maybe
broke
they
like
wouldn't-
Michigan.
maybe they
You know
wouldn't
what
be
it
the
is.
first.
Go
That's
woke,
not why
go broke.
Michigan's broke.
Yeah, but there's also like so much room for it to be wrong. You know what I mean? Like for that, like they just said. I mean, it's like, sure, another test, throw another test in there that we.
Yep.
But I agree. It's probably just, it's so specific. Like less than 15 pounds. It's got to last 8 hours and like recharge with this. I'm like, my God.
Yeah.
And then you have till Friday to have your whole project in. No problem.
Even Cupcake thinks
Every-
this story is a puff piece.
If they have it though, every cop everywhere needs one of these.
What's that, Dr. Mary?
They'll sell 1 million of these. Every cop everywhere will be carrying one. A little
Oh,
15-pound recharge.
Oh, they will sell a shit ton of them. Yeah, the government contracts will be crazy.
They'll be like
They'll
$900,000 per machine or something, even though they cost like $37 to manufacture in China. And some company probably has the patent for it. That's what I'm saying. Like, it just seems so specific.
Just the manufacturer of the cameras on cops. You get that fucking contract. Like,
exactly.
That's still somehow
game
just
day,
like
baby.
Conk out right when you beat the motherfucker's ass. they still somehow malfunction.
That's amazing. Did you know they finally canceled cops?
Hold on a second. We have a speaker. We have someone raising their hand.
Bring it back
from Clubhouse real quick. And let's see.
Is it a real person?
It's a real person.
Yes.
We have Nick Bradley with us. What do you have to say about this, Nick?
Come on, Nick.
Nick, we hear you. We don't hear you. You need to unmute your mic. There you go, Nick.
So a good friend of mine is in hemp production, and he was telling me the other day when we were golfing that there's a lot of distribution companies that will not move hemp because of this exact reason, because law enforcement can't tell whether or not it's cannabis or hemp. And the day that he was telling me that, he actually gets a call while he's on the shitter from a cop in Texas that
very descriptive
had confiscated a literal truckload of his product, and they needed test results and a whole bunch of stuff so that they could release it so that he could get it delivered to his client.
Then they just modify some COAs.
Some people in moving products, right?
Right.
Nick, didn't they just modify some COAs? Make it, here you go.
Come on, bro.
Here's
no, they didn't. They sent the real COA.
He was worried that they were going to test one of the hot batches, quote unquote.
See?
Oh God. All right.
Oh yeah.
All right.
Trapping in the transport game.
Hell yeah. Get your
Hot
money.
hemp.
That was a mild dry snitch, but let's fucking
while he was on the shitter,
fucking run this. I think it's like that was a double. No, the shitter part was descriptive, but the hot hemp part was mild dry snitch. But thank you, Nick, for your comment. Thank you, everybody on the show. Today was hilarious. Every day is an adventure for us here at High at 9 News. Thank you to every single person for tuning in. Thank you guys for making the conversion over to YouTube. A bunch of you, we see you. Please share, go to our YouTube channel. channel by going to hi@9news.com. It'll directly to our YouTube. Subscribe us. Put the little reminder on 9 a.m. Pacific time, noon Eastern, 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. Jason coming here, giving you all his crazy antics. Rico dropping knowledge and energy and vibes on everybody. 3 is 4 holding it together for us. I think so. I think it's vibes. Thank you. Thank you so much, Liz and Dr. Felicia and Matthew and Nicole. She's over in Clubhouse, and Zaza on the back end. 3 is 4.
And Adam. And Adam with 3 is 4 today came in here holding it down.
Run
Adam
CAT.
Bomb.
Yes, Adam.
Yeah.
Adam the intern.
Cupcake in the motherfucking building.
Yes.
Thank you guys. Have a wonderful day. Happy Monday.
Yes. Happy Monday.
Happy motherfucking Monday.
Go out there and take over the world.
Have a great week.
Run it.
You are tuned in to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebs and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and enthogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your hosts, Jason Beck, Rico Lamitte, and Nichole West, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time. Thank you for getting high at 9 with us.